My name is Isabelle Pujol. I'm the founder and director of Pluribus. Pluribus is a global D&I diversity and inclusion consultancy, and we've been working for the last 15 years, 20 years in this topic. Pluribus has been created in 2006, but we are all passionate, committed to support individuals, teams, organizations to succeed through the inclusion and diversity values. So we are very happy to host once a month a free webinar. Each time it has a different topic, something that is meaningful for the different organizations. We're working, for example, with big global organization and also with local organizations, but with the same aim to build an inclusive working environment where everyone can fulfill his or her full potential. So welcome to this March webinar. I'm very delighted to have several people with us today. So first of all, I have next to me in Brussels, Laura.
Laura, hello, how are you? I hope that you're well.
So Laura is working with us for many years in various projects, and she's really supporting us with the webinar and the communication side of it. So thank you, Laura. And then we have two special guests from various parts of the world. We have Silvia Siqueira, who is based just outside Dallas. She's the D&I head senior manager for Hilti North America. And thank you, Silvia, because it's very early for you. So you have your cup of tea and hopefully you are fully awake this morning, because I think it's what, not even 8 or 7 in the morning. Wow, so deep gratitude. And then we have Pascale Loaec Garnier, who is based in Brest, in Brittany, in France. And Pascale is working for Crédit Mutuel ARKEA, a bank. So, and she's coming here also as a role of a D&I ambassador and champion for ARKEA. So we will hear from both of you your respective stories around the theme, which is central for our webinar today, which is how do we create in-house network of champions? How do we build motivation, passion from people in the organizations to play an active role, to be a positive force, in transforming organizations in becoming much more inclusive. A few practical points. This webinar is being recorded, so it means that we would be able to use the video in various channels. You could use it as you wish. So I'm not only welcoming the participants that are probably joining from various parts of the world, but also the future viewers at a later date. As part of this webinar, on the Zoom, if you look at the bottom part, you have a possibility as participants to write some questions. So do not hesitate throughout the different presentations to write questions, and we will make sure to at least try to answer them. And then maybe the last point is it takes 1 hour. So at 3 o'clock Brussels time, Paris time, we will close the webinar. I think from my side, maybe Laura, you want to add a few things about the structure?
Yes, so I think, we've already spoken a bit about the fact that it's very international. I think just what is interesting about today's session is that we have the viewpoint from the diversity and inclusion director, so the person who's organizing it within the organization, and then we have the viewpoint and the opinion and the sharing of Pascale, who is somebody who has a daytime job, but has taken on the role of diversity and inclusion ambassador in her bank. So then we get both sides. Yeah.
Thank you, Laura. The whole session, and you will all experience it, is very informal and very conversational. We might use some slides, there will be some slides, but the idea is really to have an open conversation. So I am really delighted really to have you on board, and I would suggest we start with Silvia, and then we will hear from Pascale. So Silvia, I would say this virtual floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for being in the call, and thanks Isabel and Laura for making it happen, for inviting me. So I would like to start talking about Hilti North America by discussing how we implemented our employee-led group, and the fact that because of our geography, you will be listening to two different conversations. One is, how do we get the ambassadors where we have a lot of team members together? So what I say, geographic density, and that's our offices, Tulsa, Plano, and Irving. How do we get that group going? And why would ambassadors want to participate there? What's engaging for them? Versus, how do we get the rest of the organizations? We are a direct sales organization. 2/3 of our people are touch sales and are out in the field in some form. Yet, when we look at our diverse talents, those numbers are very small. So it's a big country with not much of a geographic density, and the diversity also is smaller. So to help us in that, I would like to share my screen, because I'm a very visual person, and I can talk and also go through the slides. I think that would be helpful. So everybody sees the slide there?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get started. Creating an in-network of ambassadors. And I do want to point out our employee-led group is called Own It, because we want our employees to own the journey. And also want to share that this was started at headquarters in Liechtenstein, originally in early 16, actually late 15, and it was called Our Women Network originally. That's the acronym. And it's changed. There is no acronym to the word now. It's Own It for all employees, so all employees can lead inclusion. And in North America, we have one group for everybody. So that signifies everyone in the organization. We focus on inclusion, period. How to be more inclusive. And to help us in that journey, we in North America really focused on bringing awareness to inclusion. So what I mean here is that the communication to the ambassadors always has been, here you are, we have an opportunity to assess the challenges and how our employees are experiencing inclusion in the campus, Tulsa, Plano, Irving, and then we act on it. We have sessions. We want to increase the awareness with a touch of business, always a business. And what does that translate to? That translates to we have Own It, and the ambassadors are leaders in 3 key business outcomes. Building network. So here we want to make sure that we support our teams to build business networks, and the ambassadors have a key role in that. Also, the ambassadors have a key role in facilitating and bringing these conversation topics on how do we challenge what we're doing currently from a process side. And the last part is the much more personal side, which is inclusion itself. How do we bring those who are not in that meeting to be more aware of what's going on? And you can see in that picture our Isabel there. She had a conversation on a gender dialogue, and that's the Tulsa campus picture. So build network, provide a think tank, and bring awareness. So that's what our ambassadors in Tulsa, Plano, and Irving clearly have in their mind, because we have a lot of people there. So that's what I call the hub office. So the first step also in the implementation, what's very important, is this clarity of why is so important to all of us, and even to the ambassadors. Okay, so the conversation usually would be something like, great, Silvia, we want ambassadors, but where does the organization fall in this? Who do I have support from? Why would I want to be here? So it's very important to have that conversation, that Hilti supports it, and these are the reasons why Hilti supports it. You have a few over there: attract and engage for career development, the community outreach. With this group and your support, we go out and help, because that's part of who we are. We develop customers, and we have a better cultural understanding. Then, once the ambassadors were truly understanding and seeing the benefit from an organizational, because I feel we need to ensure they know it's worth their time, right? It's a group that will have the support. So this is going beyond the allocated and executive sponsor, because clearly we did that too. Then the second part is communicate to the ambassador himself or herself. This is what you're going to get from it. You're going to feel empowered to connect, share best practices, build relationships, and exposure. Exposure, exposure, exposure. So this is why you want not just to be an ambassador, but to be a leader within the group. And then the other part was to create a connection to inclusion, which the ambassadors can speak to. So they raise above everybody else, and they can already engage in inclusive conversation in a very informal manner. When you as an ambassador and you as a leader of that group, you now have at Hilti the 5 inclusive behaviors. So we've defined here active listening, positive reinforcement, being aware of your assumptions, micro messages, and mindfulness. With this in hand, with the hand in hand, you're equipped to really start being seen as an expert, and an instigator of conversation. And that's a lot of where the engagement comes from, bringing that power to start a conversation. It's all about starting, right? A lot of individuals are very fearful and stop the process before it starts, because life is good to most at the moment, but we need to make sure that it is good for everybody and it works for everybody. So that is, from a campus environment, very easy to do, because everybody's there. You can have engaging activities. Now comes the other part. Okay, now we need to roll out this concept to all of North America. And I do want to point out that this is just US. You have, on top of that, we have Canada. And so it's a huge geography, right? One person, huge geography, challenging topic. So what I decided to do is to implement, to seek out ambassadors based on the reality of where the market organization is. Here in North America, we have 5 markets with 5 different general managers. So each general manager has chosen a specific path for implementation with their leader. And then my role has been to find where they are in their journey and give them tools. And what has been successful in engaging, especially for the ambassadors, is this link to business, because we are all so busy. We have so many priorities. And if the ambassadors come in with a business proposition, inclusion is a business, and here are my business tools for you to incorporate me into your conversation, it really empowers and engages, because this is not solely a conversation about how I'm feeling about inclusion, but this is a conversation on what can I bring to add to your business. So as I said, we find ways to insert where you can put D&I. So now I have markets where the division managers actually play the dice game. It's an inclusive game that I developed before every meeting. So let's have an icebreaker. So let's learn more about each other and what inclusion means to each other. I also have another really simple idea, which is a screensaver with 30 actions that team leaders can do to be more inclusive every day. And the ambassadors can talk about that, right? So that is the link to business. I just talked to the Rockies, which is Colorado. It's this huge division right here. Imagine someone that covers from Canada, south of Canada to Mexico. So for this area here, what they're going to do is make inclusion part of the business review. When the leader is with all his regional managers, 10 regional managers, he's going to ask, so we've identified focus areas, personal connection to the topic, communication and networking as example. Let's have the ambassador will be present and let's have a conversation, even if solely half an hour. But within the business review process, the regional manager is expected to be having those conversations and the ambassador there. So that's really powerful. I heard from ambassadors, this is really exciting because now they're in a business platform. So here's the exposure, the development, and bringing the inclusion. So that's the link to business. And then making it real, they're connected. I spoke a bit about that also because they are connected. How do you demystify the conversation? Let's not complicate this. We have inclusion should be part of who we are, and the ambassadors are being given these tools to be the conversation starters, and also to go out in the community, and that's the community partnering part. And here in North America for this year, I chose NAWIC, the National Association of Women in Construction, and also the Society of Women Engineers for us to work with. And they all have chapters and they work on community projects too. So then the ambassadors, again, they are in engaging activities because each chapter works differently, and they thus participate in there. And then the next, what is really important, and I have found, and I'm curious to hear from Pascale later, is the prescriptive actions. Because I have yet to find someone who doesn't really want to support inclusion. And the challenge is, okay, Silvia, I want to support. What am I supposed to do? What do you want me to do? So having these very prescriptive actions has been useful, to the extent where there are a few divisions where they want to officially extend this conversation to all team members in the region. So the ambassador is going to facilitate a session with the regional managers. Keep in mind, this ambassador might be an account manager. So we have an ambassador speaking to the leaders and asking them for feedback. What is working in your region? What's not working in your region? So I developed a questionnaire. These are the questions to ask. This is what you do with the questions. After the question, then we have a meeting. After the meeting, this email will go out. So people can visualize the flow and get that needed confidence. So that is what falls under the prescriptive actions from ambassadors. And I want to share an example of what is meant by putting D&I in business. All the micro messages, right? This is a picture from our annual sales convention in 2018, where we did not yet get a space in the agenda, meaning we were not in the session, but we had a huge, beautiful booth right as you walk in. People could not see our booth. So, and then we were building the tree. We had visuals, we had pull-ups explaining to people what all is taking place, where business takes place. So the ambassadors also appreciated this, because when the leaders come back, they're like, oh wow, I had no idea all this stuff was going on in D&I. Do you know about this? Kind of questioning the ambassadors. And then clearly with also what I did with the prescriptive actions is for each of these 2018 actions, partner with women's organization, pursue men, advocating real change. I had talking points sent to them so everybody can be speaking the same language, because that's very important, to the point where this is why Hilti does it. This is why you should care. And this is how that impacts your business. So an inclusive conversation within a business, with a business focus. And that's how that message has been given. And I do want to also add that I've been talking about the ambassadors for our Own It team, our employee-led groups. Yet another group that's extremely powerful, and these are ambassadors too, it's the men in our organization, the executive management team in our organization. Because with this program of men advocating real change, I've had now 5 who have participated, and they come back and they say, oh wow, now I get it. Now I know my role as a white male leader. How do I support this conversation and what I can do to be more inclusive? So these are, that's what I wanted to share. These are the actions that I have done from the D&I office perspective to support the ambassadors, because the engagement really comes, we have so many different things going on. So engagement comes with, I can win from a business, personal, and inclusion perspective. So how do we add all 3 in a clear manner so that our ambassadors can continue rolling this out, because it's a very, very hard job. So.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you, Silvia.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a huge topic, and the way that you are introducing it and presenting it show how the huge impact it could
Yes.
So I mean, I must say that for me it was a privilege to be able to be part of one of the Own It group when I was in the US last year to facilitate a dialogue to build inclusion, and I was really amazed by, first of all, by the number of participants and also by the level of engagement. So
that is true. Yes. Yes, and I only have 20 minutes, so I didn't get into how engaged. For the launch, that was very important, right? Because these topics were collected during the launch phase. So this is all feedback from the teams, what they want to hear, and gender dialogue is clearly one of them. Conversation with executives is a different one. So we had, for example, Avi on February 23rd speak to our Tulsa office, and he spoke about his commitment for change from Catalyst. What does that mean for him and for business, what he's doing? He spoke about his experience in a men advocating real change with examples. And we had 92 people attend, and the feedback was fabulous. So now we're gonna have one in the next couple of weeks here in Plano and another one in Irving. So the simple fact that our executive managers are understanding that vulnerability and exposure is needed. You need to communicate and communicate and communicate and be accessible. That in and of itself is a result of the work from our ambassadors, because they also keep, we have 100 people saying the same thing to all the different leaders. So the message is getting out. So I'm proud of our group.
Yes, you can be proud. Well, what I would suggest is now to also hear from the other side, from the one D&I champion, one D&I ambassador, and maybe at the end we could have some Q's and A's looking at the organization as a whole, and then from really the role itself. So we could have some Q's and A's that I would be grouped. So thank you again, Silvia, and happy to hand over to Pascale.
Hello. It's funny what you said, Silvia, because I listen quite the same thing here in France. So we have the same subject. Well, first, I'm not, as you said, I'm not the gender balance leader. I'm an ambassador. Audrey, who is the woman who is named as the leader, is couldn't come, so that's why I'm here. Well, first of all, we had to say that 2 years ago, our CEO decided to give a mission, a gender balance mission, to a woman, in order to improve our performance too, and to improve our way of working, and so that employees can be well known and well in their work. And then, as you said, Silvia, Audrey couldn't do everything on her own, so that's why she proposed us. She asked for ambassadors, and I was very interested in that subject because I'm very interested in women employment successes. So I wanted to join my force to that mission, so that I am asking myself, I say to myself, well, I can do something. I can do something for my company. It is a very important subject for me and for my daughter, or for everybody in the company. It should be a subject for everybody in the company. That's why last year I got a 2 days training thanks to Pluribus, who they come and they explain us how to make an inclusive workshop. And it was very interesting. And after that 2 days, I could become a D&I champion and a D&I well, facilitator. Yeah, sorry for the English. Now, every month I do I facilitate people during one day. That is to say that we have a very mixed group of 15 people, and this group is composed by no classical employee, but also directors, managers, senior or junior managers. Everybody is mixed in the same group. That's very rich, because you say at the beginning of the day that everybody is equal and everybody has one voice and everybody can say what they want, but the rules for the day are confidentiality, respectful, and non-politically correct, so that we can talk about all the subject we want to, so that there is nobody who get out of the place at the end of the day and say to himself, well, I couldn't explain what I wanted to do. So everybody is free to speak during that day. And it is very funny to see people, some of them come in the morning and they're not very happy with that day. They have lots of work to do and they don't want to be there for the beginning of the day. And at the end of the day, we ask them for one word who could resume the day, who could. And at the end of the day, it's so rich to receive the words like surprise, like it is a very good listening job. Well, everybody is so happy with that day because the subjects of inclusion is not only a problem of male and female, but it is also a subject of handicapped people, racial subjects. We have so many themes, so many themes to speak of. So it is well, everybody feel, everybody has an example in his mind and can project himself. I hope it's clear for.
It is very clear.
Yes.
It is absolutely clear.
Okay, thank you.
And we can feel that you're talking about it with real passion.
Yeah. I really enjoy that days. I'm very happy with what I can do, because I can tell you I am a fraud expert, a card fraud expert. I work for to fight fraud cards with MasterCard and Visa. So I have a real job, but I'm always in an office and with a little team. So I'm so happy to go out to get that one-day workshop and to meet other people I wouldn't have ever met in my day or in my job. So as you said, Silvia, it opens our horizon. And, yeah, it is so rich to meet that people, different kinds of people.
And Pascale, do you want to share the plan for the rollout of this series of dialogues and workshops for your employees?
Sorry?
Do you want to share the commitment from your top management in terms of who would be able to participate to these workshops?
Yeah. Our CEO and the leader decided that everybody in the company, in the bank, will have that workshops. That is to say that we will be 8,000 people who will have that one-day workshop. And we've already seen 3,000 employees in 2 years, because we began last year, and we will have 1,000 more at the end of the year, and everybody will have that one-day workshop talking about D&I for 2020. Is it the answer you?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I think it's a very strong sign of commitment, and I think the common factors that you have, Hilti and Crédit Mutuel ARKEA, is this very strong, senior leader commitment from and support from the top. Mm-hmm. So it's not an initiative on the side. It's really something that both organizations have linked to their business strategies. Mm-hmm. So when I was hearing Silvia talking about what's the business link, and I'm hearing you, Pascale, it's really because of a strong willingness to transform the organization and to be achieving a new ambition, a new vision of the organization. And I think based on the experience we have with other organizations, and I'm thinking about Sodexo, who is also one of our key clients, it's really when you have this very strong connection with your business objectives that things will happen in the respective organizations. But by building internal champions, employee resource group, business employee resource group, ambassadors, advocates, it's really about engaging the whole organization, and it's putting a reality into the word of inclusion, because inclusion is a very nice word, but if it's not translated into a reality, I think, Pascale, you mentioned this phrase, you said everyone has a voice. I think that's what is important, is everybody has a voice. Yeah, so thank you for both your two presentations. So in terms of questions, I don't know, Laura, if you have some questions. I might have one, so I don't know if you have one.
Yes, I had one for Silvia.
Okay.
You were talking about the fact that you use inclusion games to start with. Can you just expand a bit on that? Because that's interesting, because I get it puts people at ease.
Yes, of any meetings whatsoever. I developed these very simple games. The beauty is in the simplicity. One game is a memory card. What I did is I used the 30 ways to be more inclusive, which actually comes from a hashtag 30 days, 30 ways campaign. You can look that up. And they're very simple. For example, one of the things that says is ban the word fit from your hiring process. And it's something we can all do, right?
Okay.
Or have you listened to the quieter person in the room? So these are very practical examples. And I made a memory game with them. So there's a board, and then people play memory. The end, it's ludic, right? The other one is dice. I chose 12 inclusive words, and then I think I came up with 60 sentences. So the person picks out a card, and it says, describe the last time you experienced blank, blank. How did that make you feel? So they throw the 2 dice. So it's openness and curiosity, for example. And then you have a conversation with the person you're playing with and learn more about what does openness and curiosity mean to that individual. And this it's really powerful because it's very simple. And we're such different stages as people into that conversation that when I was in the booth showing this game, and actually I said, let's play with an individual, I rolled the dice. The person got the question, looked at me and said, oh, I actually have to tell you this? You want me to share something? I said, yes, that's the point. It's sharing. I would like to know you more. And the person was like, oh, such a closed individual who has never opened up during work or anything like that. So didn't even fathom that all I wanted to do was have a conversation with a forced question on 2 inclusive behaviors. So that's what the dice does. You throw the dice and play.
Super. Thank you for sharing those tips.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, well, I have one question, and maybe we could start with Pascale, and I'm sure Silvia, we also have some stories. When we're hearing, top management commitment in terms of, building awareness throughout the organization, and at the same time having D&I ambassadors of champions having day job, what are the challenges that you are facing? So Pascale, as in your daily job, but you have also this hat of D&I champion. What is your biggest challenge, and how did you overcome it? In case you have.
I'm very lucky because my director is totally convinced by the subject. Maybe because he has himself 3 daughters, and he was very happy when I told him I wanted to be gender balance ambassador first. And so he let me take 1 day per month to facilitate that inclusive workshops. He let me that. So when your director is all right, it's a very good thing. And then I just have to organize myself to do my job in the day where I'm not at that workshop. So he's very nice with me, but it is also because he can see that my job is already done, and I do this ambassador job as something, it is a plus, something more. I can do more than my job, so he's happy with that. Like he can, he can see that I'm so happy with that train, with that. So I think he's also convinced I can do my job quicker, so, with more efficiency, so that I can be free for that workshop day.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Pascale. And what about for you, Silvia? When you were setting the Own It groups, in the various regions in the US, it's already a challenge by itself. But is there any challenges that you are still confronted with in terms of engaging, rolling out, making the business link? What are the challenges you faced?
The challenge is time, my time, business time, ambassador time. That has not been overcome. So I don't anticipate it will be overcome. What the challenge is, how do you combine? And this is why the link has to be with business. So less time in the same activity that everybody is doing. But from a D&I officer perspective, the challenge really is, how do you find that balance between a strategic push and being respectful to each of the market organizations, because their needs are very different. The conversations and needs in the east of the United States are very different from the West Coast, and diametrically opposed almost to the issues in the central of the United States, versus Canada, that clearly is not just in the north and another country, another culture. So how do you set a framework that still gives enough to everybody, but remains respectful to what matters to them? Because, yeah, so that's the big challenge. So I've been building toolboxes, trying to structure the conversation in a way where the ambassadors can capture the input and make it relevant. So the challenge really is time and that balance between structure and being respectful to what really matters.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. So, I mean, I think it's following up a little bit on the challenges and also how you are addressing them. But what would you, and it's a question really for both of you, if you had companies, organizations that are about to start this diversity and inclusion journey and trying to engage their employees, and what would be your top 3 advice, in terms of especially setting up networks or D&I champions, employees resources group?
Maybe Silvia will begin, because I have to think about it.
What's the business case? We need to ask the business and the leaders, why are we doing this? If that is not clear, I would have to say, let's get that clear first before we get started, because that needs to be communicated before it gets started. So why are we doing this from a business perspective? And the second one is, don't assume anything. Ask the people. The answers are all there. Ask the individuals in the organization, where do we need to focus and how do you want us to focus in those topics? Because then that also allows you to come as an ambassador to say, these are the topics that are relevant, and to address what you have told us is important, this is what we're doing. That's the second one. And the third one is, on a personal level, we need to prepare the ambassadors to what's coming. I think a lot of us at least I did, underestimate how much energy, how much strength, and you can peel the onion, how much of the human side is taken with just having the conversations. At the same time, they're energizing, they're draining too, because when you walk out of there, the information remains. So how do I continue my day-to-day life with all this new piece of information and the world that could be that is not yet? So that is, so it's what's the business case, what do people want, and how do we really prepare the ambassadors to facilitate, to be in front, and or just to have coffee conversations, because those can, you know, those take a lot. If you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart and to change the world, it's even more draining. So those would be the
Thank
three.
you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
My turn. Well, first I would say if the CEO is not convinced by the interest of the topic, then it won't work. So in France, it must come from the top manager. Then we need that the whole hierarchy the hierarchy must give the same ideas. Sometimes, if you want directors to follow the CEO, maybe sometimes you have to give money for that. You have to put numbers on directors so that they are right to get all their direct employees, so that all the employees can have that one-day workshop. So you need money to organize all that. And then, as you said, you have to communicate so that people come to that workshops, so that ambassadors can be listened to. You need to communicate so that everybody can understand that they have their own interest to go there and to improve also the performance of the company. We are convinced that if we have a D&I policy in the company, we will have more performance and more innovation in our bank. And that's one major subject here in our bank, innovation.
Good point.
Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing your respective experiences and very strong convictions, you know, and commitments. It's always inspiring. It gives energy because it means that it is possible. And whether you are in company with 400,000 employees, 10, 20,000, it's not a question of the size of the organization. I think it's a question of, as you both said, senior commitment, a clear business case, willingness. I think whether it's for Hilti or for Crédit Mutuel ARKEA, it's also volunteering basis. So it's people who wants to invest time and motivation in being a champion or an ambassador. It's also the clarity of why they do that. But one thing I'd like to add is this notion of walking the talk. And it's true that by being a D&I champion or a D&I ambassador, it's really about walking the talk. It's by embedding what it means to be inclusive in our daily communication, in our daily environment that will make an impact. It's how we are having conversations. So sometimes it doesn't need to be very complicated. On the contrary, sometimes it's just simple. It's just to be able to speak up, have a voice, and all these voices will indeed bring more innovation, bring more motivation. And so it's very inspiring. Yes. I don't know, Laura, if you want to say
No, I think you summed it up very well, and it's great to see that Silvia, you joined us so early, but so many thanks for that.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
For that, because you really gave us the perspective from the person who's putting everything together, and you have an overview, and you've had to develop your strategy. And then it was great to hear from Pascale, who's actually one of the ambassadors, and putting that into practice and what it means to have your normal day job and be an ambassador at the same time. So thank you to both of you for joining us today.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yes, thank you. And we are all on a journey, on a learning journey, and step by step, we are moving. We are moving. You are moving. It's something that we take it at a personal level, but also with our teams and with our organization. So grateful to be part of this journey. We're going to close in a few minutes, maybe to give you some perspective about the next steps. Maybe Laura, you want to talk about the next, communication around our webinars.
Yes, so we will have our next webinar on the 26th of April. And the communication about that will come out soon. So as usual, one webinar per month on the last Thursday of the month.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And there will be indeed some communication. So you could also look at our websites, Twitter, LinkedIn, because this video and all the videos that are being recorded for each webinar will be posted. So and if there is any questions, let's imagine you have any questions, especially now I'm talking to the viewer for something that we heard from Silvia or Pascale, you could send us the questions and we'll make sure that we will connect and we'll send you some answers or some comments. So thank you so much for this great time together. Thank you again for our special guest. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Isa.
And wishing you all a very fruitful inclusion and diversity journey. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you.